I probably finished within the top 6, maybe ergs. So that was kind of a bit of a shock, surprise, but I clearly knew like I was coming in fit. Like I had worked out a lot the summer leading up to Texas because, first of all, like I knew that I had a lot less experience than all my teammates. So I knew that I like the pressure was on, like I had to prove that like, okay, I can be at a school like Texas, even though I know that like my experience level is way lower than most of the other people that are here. Um, so yeah, definitely fitness. And I think I would recommend this to any freshman who, is coming in, or any athlete who's coming into their freshman year of college who wants to make an immediate impact, is like control the things you can control. The one thing you can control is like how fit you are going into your freshman year.
Cool. All right, well, let's dive in. For everyone listening, we have Anna Jensen here, multiple-time national champion at Texas, U23 World Champion, I think 2 times, someone who I'm very excited to talk to, someone who's currently up in Craftsbury training for the Olympics. And Anna is just in my research and kind of navigating, just learning more about just college rowing as a whole and some of these top teams and athletes who performed at the highest level. I'm very excited to talk to Anna because I feel like she's going to be able to provide us a very good, for anyone listening, right, for people, high school athletes, coaches, you name it, just people tuning in. I'm excited to talk with Anna about her path to Texas, her success that she had there, how she got started in rowing, a little bit about what she's doing now as she trains for the Olympics and at the highest level. So Anna, with that, we have some fun stuff that we're going to talk about. I'm very excited. Why don't you kick things off? What I'm curious from you is and we talked about this a little bit before, but I want to hear a little bit about just how you got it started in rowing. Where did that come about? You're from the Michigan area. You eventually found your way to Texas. Now you're up in Vermont. Just before we get rolling, just to talk a little bit about how you got into rowing, where you're from, being out in the Midwest and finding rowing. And I know you played a multitude of sports and then eventually found rowing and kicked off this trajectory. Start with that and we'll dive in.
Sure. So let's see. I spent most of my life leading up to going to Texas, actually. Like I was a swimmer since I was like 4 years old. My mom swam at Purdue University, so in Indiana. Really into swimming. That was like my main sport. But like I played everything growing up, like basketball, a little bit of soccer. I also was really into cross country and track as I was younger, middle school, like early high school. And yeah, but like swimming was the main sport. And I like always knew I had a goal. Like I want to go play a sport in college. Like my mom did, that was kind of the goal. Loved competing. And then, I guess kind of got into rowing by chance. Like it all kind of worked out. I don't know if I'm like really a believer in fate, but like that's kind of how my journey into rowing kind of happened or seemed. So at the time, I was really into running, so cross country and track. And I had a lot of success when I was a middle school athlete in freshman year of high school. And then kind of, I think this maybe probably isn't talked about honestly as much as it should be, but at least my experience, after my freshman year of high school, went through puberty and my body changed, and I kind of tried to fight that to succeed, or what I thought would help me succeed in distance running, because that was my passion. I loved racing. Like, I just loved it. And honestly, like, ended up paying the price of that. Like, was injured for my whole sophomore year of high school. Was having a really, really hard time, super frustrated, because really more than anything, like I just loved to race and compete, and I felt like my body was just like constantly fighting with that desire to go out and just race. And so during the spring of my sophomore year, this woman, her name is Amber Selke, and she was on the Boston rowing scene for a while, rowed lightweight, moved up to my region of Michigan. So I'm from a town called Midland. There's a small rowing club in Bay City, Michigan that was primarily masters, very small though. She moved up to Bay City and was like, I want to coach a high school team. Like, I'm going to go to all these high schools around the area and try to recruit people to be on my high school rowing team. So she came to my high school, and my dad had heard about this, and he was like, I really think you should go. Like, I think this will be good for you. It's what, like, worth a try. So I go and I listen to her give the whole spiel on like what is rowing, and this is the difference between sweeping and sculling. And I remember I went up to Amber after that meeting and I was like, I think I could be really good at rowing. And I'm like kind of slouching, like it's not, very like unconfident at this point in my life. And she just looks at me and she's like, stand up tall. Like, I want you to stand up tall and be confident and like embrace like all of all of you. Like, be proud of being tall, like be proud of being strong. Like, yeah, like well, I think you should come to the boathouse and like we'll see if you like it. And like that conversation like genuinely changed the trajectory of my life. Like, I went from being like just this athlete that was so lost in this cycle of like uh growing up and your woman's body's changing and knowing that like I just was had this desire to just compete and push myself and train, and like I loved that. But I felt like I wasn't able to do that until I met Amber, and she pulled me out and she was like, let's celebrate being tall and strong. Um and that was kind of how my rowing journey started. And so basically that next fall was the start of when college coaches could kind of like reach out to athletes. Like, I was my junior year of high school and I had barely done any rowing at this point. Like, we'd gone out a couple times in the summer, like it was fun, but I didn't know what I was doing at all. But I knew that I needed to do a 2K erg um, to try to like get noticed by college coaches. So I went to my local gym, pulled a 2K erg. It was pretty good for like a first timer. I think I went 7:27. Like, that's pretty solid for a first time. And I was like, okay, yeah, like I'm gonna start reaching out to colleges. Like, I've like, because my goal was just I wanted to do a sport in college. I thought that would be so awesome. Like, my mom did it. That was the goal of rowing at this point, honestly. And so I reached out to a bunch of colleges, did a couple more 2Ks over the winter. Was like just cast a super wide net. Wasn't sure, really what my ability level or potential actually could be. So I was talking to just a ton of schools. And then kind of towards the spring, I started going on visits. And like Michigan was one that I was super interested in. That was kind of like a family school. My dad went to Michigan. It was close to home. They had a really strong program. But then Nick Baker at Texas reached out to me. And I was like, oh, Texas, like that seems kind of cool. Like, wouldn't it be awesome to go someplace and be able to row in the winter? Like, that sounds like if I'm gonna do rowing, like I want to row on the water. That sounds great. And so they quickly made the short list. But then, kind of as the recruiting process went on, I was going to some other schools. I went to Michigan, really liked Michigan, kind of just figured like that's probably where I'll end up going. Like, it's my home state school. Um, and I was actually like about to cancel my visit. I had gotten an offer from Michigan. I was about to cancel my visit from Texas because I was like, it's too far. Like, I don't think that is probably going to end up working out. Like, I think Michigan, I think I'll go there. And Amber Selke, the coach I was working with in Bay City, was like, no, like I know Dave O'Neill from Boston, the Boston rowing scene. You have to go. Like, you have to at least go and try it. I'm like, okay. So I go to Texas and get off the plane, and Nick Baker, Coach Nick, picks me and my mom up. He's like, how do you feel about barbecue? And I'm like, already, this is off to a great start. Um, But yeah, so really barely having rowed at all, like maybe, I don't even know, 8 times on the water. I'm on my official visit at Texas, and um, like really as soon as I met like Dave O'Neill and saw the way that the team dynamic worked within each other, I knew instantly like that was where I wanted to go. And I think, funny enough, I remember talking to Dave kind of like during the recruiting process, and he told me before I got on the plane to go home that he would be in touch. So I'm like, yes. But that also that he watched a video of me from, I think I was like 8th grade or 9th grade, racing a 2 mile. And that was like a really good race for me on the track. And um, it was super strategic. And he was like, yeah, I watched that race. And I think like the kind of trajectory of my life being like, I went through all of these struggles with running, with like my body and my confidence. And then it was kind of that like fire, athletic fire and drive that really, I think, like was what sent me to Texas and what like made that possible. Because really, like Dave was taking a chance on me. I had no rowing experience, like had barely been on the water. Like he didn't really know what he was getting, but I think he saw, and like many college coaches do look for this, but I know like when I was being recruited, like they saw this athlete who was just like bursting at the seams, like ready to like race and just do anything and everything it took to like get to the highest level of that sport. Um, so yeah, so that was kind of my journey to Texas. And um, yeah, when like
Yeah.
Dave gave me an offer, I was instant like, yeah, this is where I want to go.
That's I love that, and having kind of visited Texas twice and kind of gotten the tour with Coach Baker, like I can imagine that was an amazing just the environment that is Texas. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. I got to ride the launch as I was telling you a few months ago,
Mm-hmm.
with Coach O'Neill, and learn a little bit more about how the program's run and all that, and we'll dive into that. But what I wanted to circle back around to one of the things you alluded to, where it sounded like um, you said that you were running, you were swimming, in your kind of transition from eighth to high school and all these different
Mm-hmm.
things. And it sounds like, and I want you to elaborate on it a little bit because I think it's an important conversation. You even said it's something that maybe I can't necessarily speak to, but
Mm-hmm.
you can, and I'm sure it resonates with a lot of athletes out there who are young girls who are trying to kind of find their fit in a specific sport. And it sounds like your passion was running, right?
Mm-hmm.
Distance running was something that you kind of latched onto early in your sports journey. You had the motivation and the desire of like a Ferrari, but you're kind of in the wrong vehicle to really optimize that and like have success. And then you
Totally.
found rowing, and that became the physical outlet where the intangible drive and the desire to compete and win and put in the work to be successful that you had for running found its proper vehicle to, which is rowing, to be
Mm-hmm.
successful. Just elaborate on that a little bit. I'm just curious because I think I'm a big believer in multi sports as a high school athlete. I'm a big believer in sports that you play as a high school or as a high school athlete will shape you as a rower. And I think experimenting and finding the right fit from an athletic standpoint is very valuable. Just talk about that experience a little bit. Talk about how finding rowing and understanding that swimming probably wasn't optimal for me at this current stage,
Mm-hmm.
and then landing on rowing and how that set you up for this journey.
Yeah, totally. So I think that's exactly right. Like the all of the motivation just kind of not in really the right sport or avenue for me. And the crazy thing is like if I didn't, go through like the cycle of injuries and stuff, like I probably never would have actually given a new sport a chance. Like at that point I was almost like, oh, it's too late, you're like halfway through high school. Like when you're talking about like recruiting in sports, like most sports you probably feel like, oh, I don't know if I even have time to like start the recruiting process or, get good at a sport before college. But um, I don't know. I think a couple things, like that's one of the things that is so awesome about rowing is that you totally can start it later. And I think like for me and my development and where like my body was and my strength and everything, like I wasn't really ready to start the sport until I was, end of my sophomore year, junior in high school. Like you do have to be pretty strong and like resilient to row a boat. Like it's not, being strong is only a benefit, and I think it will help you, with like not burn out, starting it later on. I think, yeah, I guess like being a multi-sport athlete, really what it, looking back, like it gave me all of these awesome tools and experiences that I could take, and put it into rowing, and that made me not only a better athlete, but I think a unique athlete. Kind of, I think in some ways, like sets me apart even today in my rowing journey, from other people. Like going through um, experience in racing and like swimming and track. It's not something. I mean, it's similar, but it is different mentality to rowing, and I think that in some ways it gives me just a little bit of an extra like mental edge. Like I know how to race and adapt and be in different kind of positions in races and still push through. And I think those experiences are super valuable in translating to rowing. More mental toughness than anything physical. Clearly, you have, regardless of what sport you're playing, like you're working on fitness. That's something I think that's a lot easier to develop as you get older. I think like the mental lessons are huge. Also, burnout, right? Like if you start a sport like rowing super early on and you're like, I'm all in and I'm only going to do rowing, and by the time you get to college, you're halfway through college. Like that's a long time to be just like super dedicated and like only focused on this one sport. And I think this can be true for other sports. I just don't have the experience, I was a rower in college, but I think that some of the best athletes on our team at Texas were the athletes that started later, or maybe they did row in high school, but they also did other things. And so by the time they were in college and ready to just lock in completely to that one sport, that was kind of a new thing already. And it just allows you to keep improving. And I think that momentum of improvement is really, really helpful in, the long-term goal of like peaking later at like, reaching the highest level of the sport. So those are kind of my thoughts on that. And just, yeah, I think being a multi-sport athlete is awesome. And like you should definitely try other sports in high school, even if you are still rowing, like in the winter, in the off season, like try swimming or try another sport. You're not going to lose anything. You only have things to gain by having those other experiences.
And I mean, I love this topic because I was a walk on. I didn't start running until I got to college, so everything was backed by other experiences. I had nowhere even close to the success that you had at the college level, but just the fire to want to get better was very much alive in my 4 years because it was brand new to me. And I think one of the things that's interesting with you is you found your path. Your path seemed to be through endurance-based sports. Kind of
Yeah.
with the cross country, with the swimming, then eventually, or with track, eventually
Hmm.
landing on rowing. So endurance-based, that kind of skill set of how to carry your body from point A to point B, and at a competitive level, the flow of racing and learning how to pace yourself, and the things that Coach O'Neill highlighted before you even really had probably competitive rowing experience.
Hmm.
Talk about how that maybe helped set you up as an athlete, when you started at not even at Texas yet, so we'll get to that, but
Hmm.
even just your success, kind of in better preparing you for Texas. I think that's kind of where I wanted to go with that, where it's
Hmm.
like learning how to pace yourself. And I think swimming is one of the best crossovers to rowing. Like,
Yeah.
how did that kind of help better position you for being a competitive endurance athlete? Because playing basketball and then starting rowing is a little bit of a different transition. Although you have different kind of skills that you're developing, like hand-eye coordination and flow, and a little bit more of kind of those fast twitch muscles and all those different things.
Hmm.
Like, talk about the endurance side of it. Like, hey, swimming and track and cross country and learning how to race and learning how to move my body. These are skill sets that help me in that next
Yeah,
phase.
totally. I think there's two specific skill sets that most that carry over the most. I think in swimming, it's the just learning how to train and kind of the monotony of that, and being almost accepting that, like, in an endurance sport, or to reach your full potential, the training plan, whatever, you have to accept the monotony. Like, it's not going to be fun all the time. And sometimes it probably will feel kind of boring, but it, like, my whole life I was swimming, and like training was just a part of it. It wasn't something I even thought twice about it. In high school, like in the toughest part of our season, I would wake up at 4 in the morning, go swim for 2 hours before school, go to school all day, swim for another hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe do some, we called it dry land, some like body weight circuits and stuff. And then I would leave the pool. The sun would already be down. I would go do my homework and go to bed and repeat. Like, that was my life in high school. And it was fun. And like, I had awesome friends on the swim team. But really, like, I just knew how to manage my time. I knew how to um, just lock in and commit to like the rigorous training. And you don't race a ton, and when you do race, like, that's going to pay off, but most of the time you're spending in the pool is just back and forth training to get meters in. And then I think that's the biggest tool from swimming that surely, like, prepares you for the intense and long, like, all the minutes you put in. For rowing. But then I think from running, it's a little bit different. I think my biggest lesson from that, clearly an endurance sport, was more the mental side, more the strategy side. I think when it comes to pulling a 2K, I think or any erg piece really, I think my pacing and strategy came more from what I've learned in running. Like, I kind of feel like the way I would race the mile and the way that I would race a 2K are very similar. And so I think that when I got on the erg, or even, just did pieces at Texas, I felt like I was actually more prepared than probably most people, or that you would expect, because like, I knew how to pace out a 6 minute or 5 minute, race. I knew kind of the general, like, you don't want to start too fast and you want to make your move, but then you don't want to kick it in too late. Like, you want to make your move early enough that you have time. So yeah, I think the mental aspect of racing was like the biggest takeaway from running, more so than swimming. Swimming was like the grueling, the grinding of training. So I think the two of them go hand in hand, and actually were a pretty powerful combination of sports that set me up for success at Texas ultimately.
I love that. And again, like, I think when you boil down rowing to like, at least at a base level of success, it's learning how to endure the monotony of hard work on a daily basis, which it sounds like you got from swimming. And then it's
Mm-hmm.
learning how to kind of wield that in a way that actually makes you successful on race day, which is pacing. It's like,
Totally.
so,
Yeah.
like, those two things, we could spend the next hour talking about that, because I think those are incredibly valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for anyone listening, where again, like, how can you, if all you do is row, which again, like, there's nothing wrong with it, but if all you do is row at the high school level and you want to one
Mm-hmm.
day row for a competitive Division I program, like, how can you take that same mentality into your rowing specific training, and again, like, with the training and the pacing. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to transition a little bit to now your, again, I didn't give it the emphasis that it probably deserved in my short intro, but like, your journey at Texas was as good as it gets in like literally, right? Like a 3-time
Yeah.
national champ, like success, at the highest level. Women's rowing, I coached men's rowing in my college career, when I was coaching on at the Division 1 level. Like women's rowing to me is like just so amazing in the sense that you have all these brand name massive schools with all these amazing athletic programs, and then they support women's rowing and it's continuing to grow and become ultra
Hmm.
competitive. And it's not, kind of predictable in the same way that in many ways men's rowing is. Like Texas, I think in many ways you came in and were at the forefront of this era of success, kind of
Yeah.
being a part of that. And I'm curious for you, as someone who rowed, or who started late in high school, going to Texas. Now you're at Texas, um, with really just a few years, a little over whatever it was. Like
Hmm.
now you're a freshman at Texas, and you did find success in many ways. If you talk about just your freshman year, you did find success almost right off the bat. I think you're
Yeah.
you're in the top boat as a freshman,
Yep.
and I'm curious to hear from you. And I think this will resonate with a lot of people who were really good athletes in high school, but maybe didn't row for the most competitive programs, and maybe they had limited experience in eights or in big training environments, whatever it may be. Who was Anna in freshman year of Texas? And what did you struggle with over, from fall to spring and then eventually landing in the varsity eight? Like, what were the things that you were kind of starting to get right and, led to kind of being in the top boat that kicked off, the Texas that we know today? Like,
Yeah.
just take that wherever you want. But like, who were you as a freshman? What were you struggling with? Because I'm sure there were things that you had to work on specifically to kind of set you up for that success. Take that wherever you want.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, even so, coming in as a freshman too is even crazier because this was also during COVID. So I graduated high school in 2020, started at Texas in 2020. And so it was just a weird time for a lot of people. And I think was really lucky that Texas athletics took COVID so seriously, but also at the same time, like really prioritized supporting their athletes and giving them the best chance that they possibly could to compete. So yeah, I think when I came in to Texas, it was kind of a small class, small group of freshmen. We were also as a team split up into small groups so that we wouldn't um, have too much spread really of, if somebody did get COVID, it wouldn't knock out the whole team. It would knock out like a bubble. So the first couple months I was in small groups with like me and my roommate, and then there were a couple older girls. And we were mostly in singles. We would also erg a lot. We weren't doing a ton of rowing, but all of the rowing we were doing was in singles, small boats. This was like honestly surprisingly easier for me to like jump in a single or a double than it was when we started sweeping eventually, which I think was in like at the end of October, because of it was COVID and I was like honestly sculling in like most days a bathtub single in Bay City, but at least I knew the motion of sculling. And so when we got in the singles, I was like, okay, I can move this boat okay for a freshman, who doesn't have a ton of experience. I think so. I think having a bit of that individual time was good for me because it kind of showed like, okay, I'm not there yet. Like clearly I have a lot to work on, but you can see pretty easily like when you put people in a single, like who wants it really bad, or and I think that kind of individual time kind of helped set me up, or maybe just even showed that I had potential. Then I remember we got in fours and I was so lost. Like it was bad. Like I didn't even know like terminology. They're like back in your blade. Please back in your blade. I'm like, what does that mean? But honestly, like I like give all of my success my freshman year to my teammates. Like they I think just a theme of my 4 years at Texas, like was so lucky to have the most amazing teammates, but especially my freshman year. And I think this was true. And part of the reason why we did eventually win NCAAs and have so much success that year is we were just like truly, I don't think I've ever been on a team that was more, I'm going to do everything for my teammates. Like there were so many selfless athletes on the team that year that it was not, there was no emphasis on like, what can I do for me to make me better? It was, what can I do to make this team better and my teammates better? And like, there were so many people, so many older girls on the team that would take me aside, like if they could see that I was struggling or maybe really frustrated because we had just been in boats and I had gotten like 20 technical cues, and we're like, hey, like maybe I can explain this. Or like, I noticed watching a video that you're feathering with your outside hand. Like, here's how you should like really do it. Like just like small moments after practice that like nobody had to do, right? Like that's above and beyond like being a good teammate and like caring about the success of the team by just giving, offering help. And I think, yeah, just also being at such a high performing school like Texas, you learn pretty quick when you're put in boats with girls who are really good at rowing, and you just have to follow them and soak it in as much as possible. So I think clearly like Dave and Nick and Mara would all coach us, but a lot of it is you just get in boats with girls who are better than you and you try to keep up. And that it's surprising how much that can actually fast track your success in rowing, or your learning, I guess, in rowing. And so by the time spring rolled around and we were racing, I was in the second 8 for the first 2 races of the year, and it was super young boat. I think everybody in the boat, except for maybe 2 girls who were 5th years, were either freshmen or redshirt freshmen because of COVID. And so, yeah, it's just a lot of like following the lead of really awesome seniors and 5th years who cared a lot and wanted to help us and went out of their way to make sure like we were good and we felt like we had all of the skills and tools we needed to go out and race and practice hard. But also it was just fun to like be with a group of people who, we were young, like we didn't really know what we were getting into. We'd never raced like an NCAA race before, but like we know like we went through all of this COVID protocol and like grueling days of practice, and we've seen each other just give it everything on our Black Friday erg workouts, and we're just going to go out there and race like with no expectations and just go for it. So I think that kind of dynamic was pretty cool. And then I found myself, seat racing for the first 8, and it was almost like, wow, I can't even believe this. But at the same time, like, I know that I'll do anything it takes to like get to the highest level of this sport. And so it was more than anything, it just showed me like, okay, like I do have the skills or the potential to like make it and like compete at the high level. But really the majority of my freshman year was just summed up by how much like the whole team cared about each other and how much of a team effort like winning that NCAA championship was, and just the sacrifices we all made for each other. It was so special, and it definitely set the tone for the next 3 years at Texas. But yeah, like it would be hard. It's honestly hard to say that freshman year wasn't one of the best years of rowing or team culture that I've ever experienced. It was really special.
That's amazing. I think I want to double down on one thing. It almost sounds like, like the restrictions that were in place that, due to the pandemic and that current stage. And I remember coaching at the college level at that time and like having to do, bubbles and all these different things. And you guys were able to get on the water, and I'm assuming for you, based off of your path leading to Texas, if we look at rowing as, fitness and technique, you were probably pretty solid on the fitness side of things. So it's technique.
Yes. Yeah.
And the restrictions that were in place actually probably allowed or almost kind of forced people who would otherwise row in 8s and 4s into more time in the single, which
Yeah.
probably affected, kind of you were able to kind of get up to par on the technical side and all these different, like, just, am I
Hmm.
right in kind of like that? It's almost like, hey, like those kinds of, where did the fitness side of it come in for you? Like, where you like, did you notice like, okay, like physiologically, I'm in the ballpark
Yeah.
probably, but this is the
Yeah.
area I have to work on. Just further expand on that, and then we'll take it into like the next few years as well. But just further expand on
Hmm.
like that dynamic. Like as an athlete, I'm doing something. I'm in this top quarter or whatever it is, right, of the
Yeah.
team. On the technical side, I have to kind of bring it up. Um, Describe that experience, like just like understanding your weaknesses and what you had to
Yeah.
work on, and then also how you fueled your strengths.
Totally. Yeah. So one of the things I remember Dave saying when going through the recruiting process is like the goal is to be in the first row of ergs, which is like 8 ergs, the top 8 ergs. And like after the first, that's kind of measured by Black Friday. If you're familiar with Texas at all, like this is a pretty standard thing. Every Friday we do a hard erg workout, and we call it Black Friday because we all wear black. And it's like the bread and butter of our team. It's like every day Friday afternoon, or every week Friday afternoon, you're going to go really, really hard next to your teammates who are also going really, really hard. And the first time we had a Black Friday, I think I probably finished within the top 6, maybe ergs. So that was kind of a bit of a surprise, but I clearly knew like I was coming in fit. Like I had worked out a lot the summer leading up to Texas because, first of all, like I knew that I had a lot less experience than all my teammates, so I knew that I like the pressure was on. Like I had to prove that like okay, I can be at a school like Texas, even though I know that like my experience level is way lower than most of the other people that are here. Um, so yeah, definitely fitness, and I think I would recommend this to any freshman who is coming in, or any athlete who's coming into their freshman year of college who wants to make an immediate impact, is like control the things you can control. Like the one thing you can control is like how fit you are going in to your freshman year, and that was something I really like held on to. um and so yeah, like consistently throughout the fall I was performing in the top of the ergs, and I think that also, like when you're a coach and you see a new athlete like, doing so well on the erg or the fitness test, like we did running too, and like I was in the top group for running like all the time, or stadiums, whatever, like just true tests of fitness that didn't really have anything to do with technique, like I was excelling at right off the bat. And so yeah, I think it was an interesting comment to make, that coming in at that time being someone who clearly wasn't lacking in fitness but was lacking in the technical aspects of rowing, that being in the smaller boats was probably, even though I didn't really realize it at the time, like super helpful. I mean, we were barely in 8s, like maybe 4 times the fall in the whole fall. We were in 4s a little bit more than that, but yeah, I guess I didn't even realize like how rowing in the small boats for the whole fall probably did set me up for more success than if we were like, okay, we're just going to row 8s. But I think that's something that generally like Dave does really well, is he puts a huge emphasis on small boats, and we don't row 8s a lot in the fall because regardless if you're someone like me coming in with very little actual rowing experience, or if you're somebody who has rowed for years, like the technique is something like everyone can use work on, right? And the small boats are really good teachers of that. And so having that opportunity, regardless of your skill level, is something that I think is important to take advantage of in the fall.
Yeah, and again, controlling what you can control, and I think everyone, especially if you're a younger athlete listening to this, like run that back, because again, fitness is something that I preach, where it's like you got to be, it's like you got to have the engine, and then the technique is going to kind of refine that. And you clearly
Mm-hmm.
had that engine, developed through not even just rowing, like not even rowing actually, right? Like you,
Yeah.
you develop that engine, that capacity, and then the technical side, which you can pick up if you're provided the right environment to kind of help drive that. And I want to think about I think for athletes in general, for younger athletes, for parents who listen, for high school coaches who are tuning in, whoever's listening, really. I want to hear a little bit more about just the environment of just competitive Division I rowing at the top end, and just from you and your experience, right? Like Texas, grand finalist every year, multiple national championships in the last 5-6 years, literally operating at the highest of high levels. And I had the opportunity, obviously, to ride in the launch a few months ago, riding with Coach O'Neill. And this is just, again, I don't think he'll mind if I share this. But one of the things he said was, it's harder to make the Texas NCAA squad than it is to make some of these athletes U23 teams for their home country.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's like the coolest statement I could ever, I was like that's, and then there's examples of it, right? There's athletes who are literally some of the best on their team, or best in their home country, or, have made top international regattas, and that 2022 athletes who go off to NCAAs, it's hard. They didn't have a chance to compete in that. Talk about that experience. Shed some light on what rowing is at the top level of college rowing for you as someone who led a team at that magnitude. Just talk about your experience in your, sophomore, junior, senior year, and the work that's required, the attention to taking care of your body, leveraging resources that maybe you guys had at Texas that that were underutilized, that you maybe utilized more than you thought you would. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, being at a school like Texas, we had a ton of success, but we also had every possible resource that we needed to set us up for success. And I think that's something that I'm just very grateful for, an athletic department that really cares about the rowing team. And that was very, very clear throughout my whole time at Texas, that our athletic department cared about our team and the success of our team. And I don't know what that's like at every school, but I know for us, we definitely had the support and felt that support. And so then the next step of that is, you're an athlete at a school like Texas, on a team like Texas. How are you going to utilize that support to make you the best rower, athlete, person that you can be? I think when my experience at Texas and kind of transitioning out of the earlier years where I'm being, following the lead of these awesome seniors, to then transitioning to becoming a leader myself on the team and guiding the next generation through, is we had a very, very clear, we didn't talk about winning a lot. We didn't talk about winning NCAAs. That wasn't really the vocabulary, but it was very, very clear that we were showing up every day at practice with this one goal in mind. And it was really no wasted days. You come to practice, and I mean, Dave, we call it Dave-isms, but he is just such an amazing coach. The way that he has these sayings, really, that he kind of just repeats and repeats and repeats and repeats until it's it's second nature to you. You face a challenge, something comes up, and you're advantage Texas. That's something Dave would say. It's ways to twist these things and look at them in a different light. But I think it really it sets an expectation that you come to practice it could be NCAAs. You could be racing NCAAs that day. And so it's really the little things that I think we do every day super consistently that sets you up for the success at the end of the year. But it also is just a very a huge expectation for a college student, a college athlete. The expectation really that you treat rowing at Texas this is your full-time job. You're a professional athlete. You're still in college, but when you come to rowing, this is it. So yeah, it's just doing the little things, the little sayings, the last 2 minutes of I think you took this from Nick Saban, which I really resonated with because I love football. But these like 2-minute drill, the last 2 minutes of practice, like you lock in and you make those your best strokes. So it's kind of like the finishing strong, or like at some point in this piece or this practice, you're going to have doubt and you're going to say like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I have what it takes. And Dave would always say, acknowledge that doubt and then get back to work. So now it's like, even when I'm rowing today, I feel like, I'm feeling so tired. I'm like, get back to work. Like there's just little things over the whole year. And it's just the expectation that you show up and you give your best to your teammates. And yeah, I mean, we put in a lot of minutes. Like we do a lot of bike erging. We row like the high intensity practices, but really it's like showing up and like taking those smaller things seriously that I think sets you apart. And you have to be willing to sacrifice like the typical college experience for that. But I think the lessons that you learn are so much better. They're priceless really, and like will change your life, not only your life as an athlete and a rower, but your just how you're a person, how you treat people. And so, yeah, like those are the lessons, like the expectation that you take it super seriously, but like what you get out of being in an environment like that with super high performing individuals that are pushing you to be a better athlete in person all the time, like it is priceless. And so I mean, I would 100% recommend like rowing at a high level, choosing a school like Texas where you're going to go and you're going to have every possible support that you need to become the best version of yourself. And then really what you do is you buy into that. Like you buy into the team culture, you buy into the expectation, you listen to the people who have been there for years and want to help you become the better version of yourself, and you just go all in. And I think that's exactly what I did at Texas. Is like it's super easy to buy into the team at Texas, the culture, what Dave O'Neill has created, but it is a choice every day, and it's definitely like changed my life. Still, not even being on the team anymore, like it still is impacting my life every single day.
And I wanna transition to now kind of like some of your current training and your work up at Craftsbury. But before we get to that, just out of curiosity, like if for a high school athlete who is one day hoping to row for a school like Texas, or anyone who's competing at that level, Division One rowing, top 10, top 5, top 15, whatever it is, type program, environment, all these different things. Like trying to think of the way I want to word this, but like what like question, what should they be aware of in order to be successful at that level? And success comes in many different lenses, but let's use the example of to, like be in a position to compete and row in competitive boats, and like what should they be aware of? What questions should they be asking themselves? Again, whatever kind of first comes to mind to you, that if you were, a junior, senior in high school and Texas made you an offer, like before I do this, like, okay, like this is what I want to know, or this is what I should expect from that kind of environment. What comes to mind?
Yeah, I think there's like two things. They're kind of similar, but I think I would recommend spend as much time with the current athletes on the team as possible. Try like even so if you're on a visit, try to spend as much time with the athletes there as you can, even if they're not going to be on the team with you by the time you get there. Like kind of their attitude towards their teammates and their daily schedules and how they approach practice. Like you can learn a lot about a team by spending time with them, observing them, asking them questions about what their life is like and how they do things daily. I think is the best indicator of what you're getting into when you sign up for a team. And I think team culture truly is the most important part of a college rowing team. I think that especially for your own happiness and mental health and how you fit in with that group, like that can be the difference between a good college rowing experience and a bad college rowing experience. And so I think you just want to take every opportunity that you can get to kind of try to envision yourself with these girls, with these women on the team, and how would you feel in that group, and how can you picture yourself living more or less like the life that they live every single day. I think maybe if you're not like at the stage yet where you're going on visits or don't have the opportunity to maybe go on a visit, which I think, is something that is true in like the recruiting process, like it's pretty easy too to just like ask a coach, like, hey, is there somebody on the team that I could get their phone number or their Instagram and I could DM them some questions I have, or um, text them. Like, I think that's another thing too. Like, our team, I know, like, we love to talk to recruits. Like, we wanted to share about Texas with our recruits because we love Texas. We thought very highly of our team, our coaches, what we were building. And so I think asking questions, whether you can't really ask too many questions, but asking specific questions about, hey, like, what's the dynamic like? Like, what about your class, your coursework? Like, is there a balance there? Like, am I able to take the classes that I want to take while also pursuing rowing? And just reach out to the women on the team. And I think you'd be surprised on how excited they are to help you and mentor you, even if you're not committed to the team yet. Like, I think it's telling of the kind of people that probably are on that team, but also really like reach out to the athletes, because that truly is the best indicator. The coaches will tell you, right, their spiel, but the athletes, it's super authentic. And I think that gives you the best idea of what you're getting into.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for anyone, especially at that level, right? Because when you're talking about the margins of separation between those programs at that level, those are right, they're all fast and they're all talented and they all got really really good athletes on their team. Like,
Yeah.
what are things
And
that separate
support too. Yeah.
and support? Yeah, that's a big one.
Like,
Yeah.
Texas obviously has great support, but so do all, a lot of the other schools at the top. Like, it's a lot of the same, but I think it's the people that are really make the places different.
Yeah. Oh man, I could talk about that all day. I wanna talk a little bit about, and I'm curious, like, just you're up at Craftsbury now, and you're training. You have your sights set. Obviously, you wouldn't be putting in all this work if there wasn't a goal to achieve and all these different things. You're really young in your journey, in post college rowing and all these different things, like in your pursuits. And I'm curious, the way I want to kick things off, just to hear a little bit about your current training, obviously bridging off of what you learned at Texas and how that's probably shaping a lot of your training now. But like, as someone who, had so much success at the college level, is now pursuing post college with the dream of one day, rowing in the Olympics. You have international racing experience with U23s and, the World Championships and all these different things. When you first started training at, post college, being someone who had so much success at the college level, like, what was that transition like? What was the eye opening, thing for you where it's like, oh, like now I realize I really got to spend more time in the single, or oh, now I realize really the value of, fitness or recovery or whatever. Like, what were the things that shocked you in this transition to now post collegiate rowing in the pursuit of, an Olympic journey?
Yeah, I think transitioning from Texas to post collegiate rowing, so training with the national team, was a way bigger transition than I expected. I really, because I know like the top teams in the NCAA produce really fast eights. And like I was consistently in one of them, and the transition was really, really hard. And I wasn't expecting it to be as hard as it was, which I think made it even harder. The biggest changes really were that, even though we did spend time in small boats at Texas, like now you're going from, in the spring, rowing eights probably 4 times a week and a 2 times a week or something like that. to now every day you're spending in the single or a pair, and you never row eights, until the very, very end of the season, if you're lucky enough to be in the selection for the eight. And so relearning how to row the small boat is very challenging. And I think fitness can set you up, but at the higher level, fitness only gets you so far. And I think that was kind of the difference between coming out of high school to college, and then coming out of college to now like the national team, is fitness got me pretty far my freshman year of college. But now it's like, okay, fitness is important, but everybody is fit. Like everyone at this level is spending hours a week on the erg, on the bike, however, really, but like lifting. So everybody's fit, everybody's strong. And so the technical side matters a lot more. And it was a hard learning curve to go from really prioritizing the eight to now, okay, I'm in the single and doing 20K plus rows in the single and the pair. And that was like way more volume than I was doing in college. And so it was really easy, I think, to get frustrated and feel like, okay, like I went from being kind of one of the top dogs at Texas, and now I'm just at the very bottom of the group, just trying to do anything I can to make this boat go faster, but it's so hard. And I think most of that year after I graduated, Texas was like that, where it was just me reminding myself, okay, like it's going to get better. Like I'm going to learn, like I just have to keep showing up. I think that's like a super valuable lesson that maybe it took me a little longer to get to that point where like in college, like quite frankly, that wasn't really my experience transitioning out into the Texas team. But after, it definitely was. And like, I think that's advice that I would definitely share with athletes is like, even when you feel like you're at the very, very bottom of the group, like do not underestimate the power of just showing up and just keep showing up to practice and just getting in the boat and try again. Like it's frustrating, but it's worth it. And I think that was most of my time that year. And then I moved to Craftsbury in April after winter speed order, which U.S. rowing, one of the selection metrics for like the World Cups and the ultimately like making the World Championships. And I didn't perform very well in the pair at winter speed order. And the national team coaches were like, we see a lot of potential, but technically you are not there yet in the small boats. And so they were like, I think you should go somewhere to develop the technical skills. And I had, a lot of friends, honestly, like that I had met the past year that were training in Craftsbury. And one of my really good friends from high school actually did the U23 program here with the Green Racing Project and loved Steve Welpley. And so I reached out. They had room for me to come train. I thought I'd be here for like a couple months, ended up coming and just absolutely like falling in love with the sport again. And I think also like one of the biggest differences between my previous rowing experiences and now is like it's even more important to love the day in and day out and the journey, because we don't race a ton in college, but you race even less on the national team. It really, really is about like the training process, the little wins that over time are just going to add up, and you won't even realize like how far you've come until you look back. And so, yeah, I think Craftsbury, just an amazing group of people training up here, an amazing group of coaches. And really, it just is a place that like really allows you to fall in love with the individual process and journey of training. And that's something that I've like really learned to love. Again, really, since like being in high school, and coming around to that. And so I think, yeah, like training is way more individual at this level. But if you can find a place where you're just like loving the journey of it, then that's like the whole point, like obviously I have big goals But at the end of the day, like, what I want is to look back and be like, I made the most out of the journey, or I learned the most about myself as a person, as an athlete from the journey of it, not, oh, I accomplished my goals and the results and now what? Like, I think, yeah, it's exciting, but that's not why I'm doing this, because that's not going to set me up ultimately for the rest of my life. But the lessons I learn through the process of training will.
I love that. And I got two more questions for you. And then we'll start we'll wrap up. But this training, this transition to now training for the Olympics and now at Craftsbury, and just out of curiosity, like the volume of training, the emphasis on technique, and kind of bringing it full circle, right? Like continuing to embrace our areas that we know we gotta get better at, and all these different things. Like, separate from those, like, as someone who's training at the highest level now and putting in all this work and balancing all these other things in life, but also just, hey, like, I'm trying to focus on this specific task and trying to one day make the Olympics and all the, like, what's one thing that you emphasize as an athlete, as an endurance athlete? Meaning, like, and again, I just think, like, what's one thing that you feel is, like, this is hidden? It's not like at the forefront of, like, work and technique and all these different things, but this is integral in who I am as an athlete in my post-college journey, and probably was helpful in college. Like, and it could be, and meaning, like, this is something that I emphasize as an athlete. It could be recovery. It could be sleep. It could be strength training. It could be, like, something that's hidden from the rowing, like just the pure rowing specific training that you feel is paramount to your success, that you make sure is a non-negotiable in your daily practices or even in your just weekly practices. Like, what would you identify? And it could be one or two, but just, what do you think?
A couple things. I think something that I've started to put a lot more emphasis on this past year has been warming up, proper warm-ups. That was something that definitely didn't do enough of in college. And I was never really, like, knock on wood, like, didn't really deal with any serious injuries in college, which I was lucky, because the way that I was treating my body before practices was not setting me up for that. But now, with the increased volume and training and just, being in smaller boats, it's so important to warm up. And it doesn't have to be like 30 minutes of it, but I think, rolling out, activating, stretching after too, or doing something to loosen up after, just to take care of your body. Like, I mean, even like training with the national team in Chula Vista over the summer, we always had PTs that was like, at least once a week, I'm going to go in there. And even if I don't feel like there's anything wrong with me, like, I'm going to get some work done, because as soon as you kind of fall off of that, then you start to leave your body way more susceptible for injury. And injury really hurts consistency, and consistency really is key in a good training block. And so, yeah, I would definitely say just warming up, a little bit of time on the bike, rolling out, a couple activation exercises. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but it goes a long way. Yeah, I think my goal for this year is to prioritize sleep more, because I think also with staying healthy, sleep is huge. Also, not only your body, but with, like, not getting sick, which also takes you out and, kind of interrupts the consistency of training. And it just, like, makes you a happier person if you're well rested. And so I think sleep's the next goal, in addition to warming up properly.
And both of those lead to, you highlight consistency, which I love. Like, again, that's, if when I talk to high school athletes, like that's the number one thing. Like, the best ability is availability, and sleep and proper warm up keep you able to show up. Actually, literally what you're referencing before, showing up to practice every day. That's how you get better, literally. So again, I love both of those, and um, definitely, stress the importance of what you just said. My last question for you before we wrap up, just nothing on the horizon, no training coming up, no like rowing specific training. You have a newfound gap that you never thought you would have in your training, and no racing on the horizon. I'm just very curious to hear from you as someone who has this diverse background of training, and I'm a training person. I love talking about
Yeah.
that side of rowing and exercise and in whatever modality it may be, but nothing on the horizon for 3 to 6 months. You have a blank calendar, and today you have to do something to feel like you're productive and moving the needle forward, but whatever fashion that comes in is completely up to you. No training program, doesn't even have to be rowing.
Hmm.
Like, what are you doing for your exercise or training, just to kind of scratch that itch and get that, that feeling that you're seeking as an athlete? Like,
Yeah.
what modality? Is it rowing? Is it on the erg? Is it, biking? Is it running? Is it whatever it
Hmm.
may be? Like, what are you doing with a blank slate of a calendar?
That's a fun question. Definitely running. I really do love running. It makes me feel like I love being outside. It makes me feel free. I love running up in Craftsbury because there's like just dirt roads for miles and like rolling hills. It's very picturesque, a little challenging coming from the Midwest where everything is flat, but it's good for me. But I think like if I wasn't rowing or whenever I'm done rowing, trying to stay fit, like I just want to run. I think it would be cool to do some marathons. But yeah, I think anything really outside too. But I pick running. This winter, I'm spending a lot of time learning how to cross country ski. So that's kind of like the exchange for that, for running, but in the winter. So yeah, those I like anything really that I can do outside that I'm moving. But running is it kind of was like my first love as a sport, so it never really goes away.
And are you doing? Is it going to be a short distance run? Is it going to be a long distance run? You
Ooh.
highlighted marathons. Is it going to be something
Well,
like
yeah.
6 miles plus, or is it going to be like like obviously you said you want to be outside, but is it going to be like hill sprints? Like, again, you have nothing on the horizon. What's it going to be?
Ooh. I love I love doing hill sprints in college. We
Really?
did all
Okay.
we did those at Texas and they were, I mean, pretty challenging workout, but I just loved it. Like so fun, so hard. But no, it would probably be just like a really long run. Yeah. I've kind of changed as I've matured as an athlete to just appreciate more of the like slow and steady versus the like the intensity. Um yeah, probably
Yeah,
like long
I love
runs
it.
up in
I,
Craftsbury.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That's a great spot to close things out. I think just last thing, Anna, like just um again, because I love this conversation. I could talk all day about these topics, especially the college side of things, but obviously this side of things I think is when you really understand who you are as an athlete, when you're putting this amount of training into a pursuit. College is great, but you have all these other things that go into the college experience when you're at this phase of your life, like you're all in on this one
Hmm.
pursuit. So I could talk about this all day, but I want to be conscious of your time. Just general piece of advice, and again, you've given so much of it. But as we wrap things up, last thing, like if you had to highlight one thing that you think, was a game changer in your journey, or when you run back the journey to kind of be the athlete that you are today, for a high school athlete who is trying to one day row at the college level, maybe not, kind of go the pursuits after that you're doing now, but like just
Hmm.
they want to get recruited, they want to be successful at the college level, and they're a freshman, sophomore, junior, and they're just, again, take it wherever you want, but just one piece of advice that you would give younger athletes who want to be successful in their rowing journey and one day row at the college level.
I would say, honestly, like the most important thing if you're a younger athlete in high school rowing is to just have fun. Like you have so much time to like put pressure on yourself or to get intent, to really like ramp up the intensity of the sport. But I think like looking back on my college or on my just career as a whole from, you know, being in sports my whole life is just like really prioritize like where you are. Like have fun with what you're doing in the moment. Don't try to think too far ahead in the future. I think consistency is like the name of the game for like getting to your reaching your goals. Like doesn't mean you can't set goals, but really when you're younger and at any time in your career, but especially when you're younger, like I think the most important thing is to just enjoy what you're doing in the moment. Yeah, and I think if you're having fun with it, like you're going to see success. Um, it's the moment where it stops becoming fun that I think is when I would start to worry about somebody. Um, so yeah, just take care of like where you're at right now and like don't wish that away and just have fun in the moment.
I love it. I love it. And it's amazing how many people, like again, like at training at the highest levels, like again, when you really unpack their story, like the love of the training. And I mean, in many ways, like the love of the training is probably what fuels makes this such a sustainable journey. And that's part of the process of falling in love with the process and enjoying the process and all these different
Right.
things. So anyway, and this
Yeah.
was, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and that's not to be confused with like it's not always gonna be fun. Like there's gonna be bad days, there's gonna be hard workouts that you just hate. But like at the end of the day, like you're having fun because you like to row and that's worth it. So yeah,
Yeah.
that would be
I love it. I love it. This is awesome. This is a great, again, I could talk all day. This was some of these topics, were an absolute blast. Anna, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for, maybe we'll do a round 2 at a later date when you're, continuing to evolve, and get closer to your journey and dreams and all these different things. Like, but again, this was an absolute blast. Really appreciate you taking the time to come on. Good luck as you,
thank you.
continue with your training. But again, thank you so much for coming on. This was a blast.
Thanks for having me.